are going to have to combine two things now. We have an area of access to markets, identifying market opportunities, local and international, and then we have transformational leadership in business. So I'm going to invite a number of speakers who are going to take us through those particular areas, and then from there we should be on course. Allow me to introduce Professor Mary Kinoti. Professor Mary Kinoti. I wish to confirm that Professor Mary Kinoti is in the house. Allow me to proceed and invite Ms. Millie Boli. I hope I pronounced that right. If not, kindly pardon me. Ms. Millie will be looking at opportunities and challenges of building an e-commerce company in Africa. She's going to take her place, and then we are going to have Ms. Anne Koya. Yes, Ms. Anne, kindly, in our place when you find KY, sometimes you are not sure whether it's Koya or Choya. Choya, exactly. So KY, if I was to pronounce that from my place, it could be Koya, but now it's Choya. Thank you so much. So, two things here that I want us to discuss quite fast before we go to the next session. And of course, the first one I'll start with Ms. Millie, the General Manager, Kenya, that is SokoWatch. And it's all about opportunities and challenges of building e-commerce company in Africa. Remember, this particular session, we're looking at access to markets and identifying markets opportunities, local and international. So, perhaps you can start with a brief introduction of SokoWatch so that people can understand where you're coming from.
Okay, so I'm not sure if we're going to go through the slides or how exactly we're going to do this, but we can kind of just walk through. So, my name is Millie Boyle. I'm the General Manager of SokoWatch, based here in Nairobi. I was part of the team that came to set up the operations in Nairobi, and I've been helping to scale those operations throughout East Africa. Don't let the accent fool you. I've been in Nairobi for almost 10 years, so this is home. If I speak too fast or you don't understand, we can catch up later. That's common. Everyone tells me that. So in a nutshell, SokoWatch is a sales and distribution company that focuses on the last mile. So what I mean by that are the areas that, if you're familiar with Nairobi, like Kibera, Kawangware, Pipeline, those are the types of informal retailers that we distribute to. So we do a B2B platform, specifically using e-commerce as our means of distributing these goods throughout the market. And as a result of that, we work with larger firms like the likes of Unilever, P&G, Chandraya, just to name a few, in sourcing their products and then making sure that we really push their products into this quote-unquote Duka level. And by doing that, what we've done, as the ladies before were alluding to it, is we try to make sure that when we built our platform and we kind of started our business model, we were trying to focus on, okay, what's the problem we're trying to address here, right? So, in a nutshell again, SokoWatch is just really trying to service this market and making sure that these retailers are getting sustainable product. Because if you've ever spent a day in Kibera, for instance, and walked around with these retailers, a lot of them are actually owned by women, interestingly enough, and they'll really tell you that their shops are overlooked by the larger manufacturers and not completely sustained in terms of product, which affects their revenue. So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my name is Anne, and the right pronunciation of my second name is Choi. This is Kenyan dialect. Currently, I'm the founder and the CEO of Leadership Impressions Limited. Prior to that, I worked for a very long 21 years, so it's actually 22 years, and as I said earlier, I had a privilege of really working with women in different places, particularly in the rural areas, both rural and semi-urban, urban and semi-urban setting, and I said 13 African countries. And one of the things that really drove me into wanting to continually support not just women, because leadership is not a women issue, was the experiences personally I experienced in senior levels. One time when I worked in South Africa, I worked with 9 countries, and I realized that there was a gap when it came to the women leader. Somebody mentioned here that we do double, yet it was not necessary for me to leave my feminine nature for me to be an effective leader. And that triggered me to begin to study more about leadership and passionate about it. I also am a certified personality trainer, so I decided what Betty was saying, to really understand myself before I wanted to give out. So I went further to study more, get to know about my personality and what I'm good at. And I realized, with all grace, I turn around organizations fast, struggle. For example, I took over when I went out to study my own company and studied leadership. My church board asked me to look after a school that had never broken even for 9 years. It has taken me 1 year to turn it around. And so I understood my area of strength, and I decided to invest in it. And I said, I want to share myself out. So that's why I went into consultancy and leadership, and I'm really passionate about it. And I enjoy leadership. Whether I'm talking to men or women about leadership, I really enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Anne. And there is something that I just want to ask, because you are so much into leadership, and we are looking at transformational leadership in business. In your case, let's talk about emotional intelligence. Sounds interesting. Maybe perhaps you can also emphasize on that and tell us what does it entail.
Actually, before I talk about emotional intelligence, I know that has been the focus for a long time, but I'll be talking about multiple intelligences. That's what is helping women. We're living in a time when there is no opportunity anymore for what you call the heroic leaders, celebrating one person's success. We've moved now. The world is looking for what you call collectives, and collectives are groups of people who move the organization's agenda. Because when think of organization like a table with 4 legs. If you destroy the tree, that table will be wobbly, and that has been the case where we celebrated an individual. Now, so what are the characteristics of these individuals that we celebrated, which are required in what you call the collectives, the groups of leaders? One of them is what you call emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence has something to do with understanding your emotional status and how you'll be able to exemplify that in during both difficult moments and light moments, but also how you are able to project, understand others, and be able to tap from others to be able to maximize on them. But these days, we are not just talking about emotional intelligence. We are talking about cultural intelligence. If you are a leader, and today we are, for example, our country has almost been destroyed by different tribes. What is your ability as a leader to be able to thrive in other contexts where the culture is different from yours? That's cultural intelligence. Your ability to be able to be multicultural. In fact, for example, that's one element that is already commented and extremely required for you to be able to thrive in different contexts. We also need religious intelligence. For example, I'm a Christian, but in my working career, I had an opportunity of working in Somalia, which is 99% Islamic context. I dressed like Muslims many times when I was there. I've worked in Somalia, Sudan, I've worked in DRC, which are completely different contexts. I've worked in Angola and Mozambique. Those are completely different contexts, even in faith. So do you have your intelligence in your faith religiously? Do you have that intelligence? And there are many others. So it's no longer now just emotional intelligence. It is multi-intelligence that's required now for us to be able to thrive in our context, wherever we are, whether we are at home, in a marriage, or leading organizations, or doing consultancy. You need to be able to thrive in those various intelligences.
You've worked in quite a number of countries, and perhaps I just want to get a feel of where we are as a country, just getting the information into context. Kenyan chapter, how are we doing as far as transformational leadership in business is concerned as compared to the other countries that you've been?
As I said, we've moved from what you used to, before I come to that, we moved from what you used to call trade. Trade leadership is where we said you are born a leader. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
You are born a leader. And it's true, there are some of us who are born with certain traits that make it easier. But anybody can be a leader. You can learn leadership, okay? Then we move to what we call transformational leaders, where we say we are passing the skill to empower others so that they can then be what we are. Now we've moved to what we are calling leadership development. There's a difference between leader development and leadership development. Leadership development is where we pull together a pool of potential people and we move together as leaders. Now, Kenya is one of the most respected countries, not just in Africa, but internationally. For your information, we are the most literate country in Africa. I lived in South Africa. I had the privilege of working in Southern Africa region and living in Joburg for a while. We worked in 9 countries. And you'll be surprised that while South Africa, for example, has some of the best developed institutions, Kenya is the most literate country in Africa. Let's start there. And a literate nation is a highly advantaged nation. You need an honorary degree, for example, at the moment, to begin to speak and find a place really effectively in the negotiation table. In South Africa, if somebody has a diploma, they are highly educated, especially if they are blacks. Just to give you the extreme, 80%, no, blacks, let's just look at those races so that you understand the extremes, because I'm talking of Kenya, which is primarily of a black race, and I'm not racialist, there's something I'm trying to drive here. South Africa, which is highly developed, for example, the first group that went to school were the white race, and I enjoyed the opportunity that were in South Africa. But I just want to give you something here so that you understand the dynamics of what you have asked. In South Africa, for example, only out of the 80% blacks who are in school, only 20% are South Africans. Now, forget about the race. I'm trying to talk about literacy. Don't get carried away. I'm not racial. I just want to say how we don't access opportunity and how Kenyans have access opportunity. So 80% of the 20% who are in South African countries, for example, are foreigners. Now, a big chunk of those people are Kenyans. Kenyans are very enterprising. So let's go back to leadership then. A very literate society. So our problem isn't leadership. And yet it's there. But if you dig deep, the thing that is eating us is bigger than just leadership. We are very informed people, we have a very enterprising society, we have a very empowered, you'll be surprised, we have a very open society to women, straight enough. But we have a bigger challenge there, issues to do with cultural, and that's what when the lady was sitting there talked about structures. Issues that our cultures are very different. I've been privileged to literally work with almost every tribe. Big chunk of let me not say every tribe, but a big chunk of the tribes in this Kenya. Our cultures are different. Our cultures give us different space. For example, I come from a Kamba culture. Now, when you come to talk about gender in the Kamba culture, you need to know what you are talking about. Because there is nothing as a woman in my culture I cannot do. I have never known what it means to be an oppressed woman in the Kamba culture. But now in another culture in this country, it's completely different. So culture is one of those issues. Other issues are simple to do with structures, policies that are in place, but we have not invested. So that I don't take all the time, our society is best placed. We just need to go deeper, take what's in the archive, and move forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much. As I leave the audience to digest that, and we'll come to you so that in case you have any questions to do with transformational leadership in business, then those questions are best placed to be answered by Anne. Let's go to Millie, because SocoWatch, a brilliant concept. But I would like to understand how intelligent your system is. The main reason I'm saying that is e-commerce comes with quite a number of challenges, especially in this digital era. And for instance, when I want to make payments and all that, this is something meant to really support the informal traders and all that. How safe is my money? How intelligent is your system?
Yeah, I think the ladies that spoke before, actually, one of them mentioned, and I really liked it, was the concept of missing. Often when you're building a business, you have to really understand the problem or the solution you're trying to achieve, right? Often when we're building businesses, whether it be e-commerce or any type of business, we often miss the concept of our basic elementary education, right? The problem comes before the solution. So in the case of SocoWatch, in terms of mobile payments specifically, right, there's no doubt, as a foreigner who's come from North America, so I'm Canadian, the mobile payment system here fascinated me, right? It is very well integrated, your mobile wallets are everywhere. However, when it comes to the more informal sector and just the e-commerce platforms in general, I can tell you in our sector there's a pain point with regards to like the accessibility of that information to then integrate into these platforms. everyone has the ability to pay in mobile payments at the higher level, but at that last mile, which is the mass volumes of our population, right? In Kenya alone, the majority of these people sit in these informal sectors. 90% of the consumer buying power in these informal markets across Africa sit in the last mile, right? So the accessibility of the APIs and just the documentation is not quite there, which really creates a challenge for any e-commerce platform to actually go properly cashless. So I think until that is properly documented, it's still going to be one of the key challenges in the e-commerce space that's going to limit the amount of opportunity that you can then kind of grow from. Now, Soko Watch has found innovative ways, right? We all are aware of Tills, M-Pesa has great solutions, Airtel is working on their mobile money as well. Pay bills are accessible, but the facility and how easy it is to actually integrate that in your platform is still, in my opinion, miles behind, as opposed to how much it's already integrated into society.
And in terms of trying to penetrate the Kenyan market, because e-commerce, I don't want to say it's a foreign concept, but we are yet to exactly get there.
Yeah.
So in terms of penetrating the Kenyan market, what are some of the challenges that you've faced so far, such that if there is another company with the same platform could face such, or maybe an entrepreneur who wants to establish such a company that does e-commerce, what are some of the challenges that the entrepreneur should prepare to face?
I think my personal favorite is the concept of this big thing, right? You hear the African emerging markets, they're booming, right? Smartphone penetration is all over. I can even attest 10 years ago when I came, I had that dumb little Nokia that had a little flashlight. That's what was available, and everyone's laughing, yeah, you all remember. So that was the phone I could actually easily, accessibly buy when I was here. And nowadays, everyone has the new iPhone and the newest phone in the market. So the smartphone penetration, no doubt, is there. But the interesting thing, so in our market segment, again, it's the last mile. What's been really fascinating is we kind of deep dive. So Soko Watch does a lot of research, and I'll encourage any entrepreneur, as the ladies mentioned before, any segment you go into, make sure you do your research. Everyone has great ideas, but that doesn't superimpose itself onto the market as easily as you think. I can attest to that if you want to learn about it. Like Soko Watch has made multiple pivots to get to where we are today. But that being said, the smartphone one is my favorite debate. The number of conferences I go to and everyone brags, e-commerce is the next big segment. In our segment, it was around a 40% penetration of smartphones. What that means is that, out of 10 users, 4 people should have a smartphone. But then when we saw challenges about our app just kind of getting out there and rolling out, we sent out more research agents to kind of do some deep dive. Now, if I give you the profile, because it's important to understand your target market, of our target market, it's these mom and pop shops. So these mamas, these babas that are running these kiosks, these dukas, and they have their smartphone, but they have no idea how to use it. Right? So you tell them, where did you get your smartphone? They say, hey, my son, he goes to Nairobi University, he bought me this phone, and now I have it, but don't ask me to do anything but YouTube and text. Right? So I think until people fully understand that e-commerce is not just about owning a unit, but also educating your end user and making sure you're able to create a value add that's enough for them to want to change their behavior or educate themselves and learn something new, I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Everyone wants to build an app nowadays. Every second young youth is out trying to build an app to be the next, big Facebook or LinkedIn. But that's one of the key challenges, I think, in this market.
Thank you so much. So for those who might be willing or who might be having plans to venture into the e-commerce sector, be prepared. It has its fair share of challenges, but there is also the bright side. Now, I want to invite a few questions. Remember, we have Anne, who is tackling transformational leadership in business, and then we have Millie, who is basically talking of the opportunities and some of the challenges when you want to access international market or even local market, like the way Soko Watch is doing. Then she's better placed to handle that. So I want to invite questions. Could be on transformational leadership or on opportunities and challenges of accessing markets. Any question? I see 1, 2. Any other? Perfect. Let's have those 2 questions, and then from there, we'll be in a better position to respond.
Okay, hello. My question is to Anne. No, not to Anne, to Millie, sorry. And I'm so interested in e-commerce because of the power it can do in terms of finances. You can use a very little amount to reach masses, and mine is towards the agribusiness. Recently, when I was talking about coming for this summit, someone challenged me and asked me, you women entrepreneurs, being that you see, like when you go to the Soko, when I say Soko is my local market, there's a lot of mamas selling wares here and there. Now in the Rift Valley, from where I come from, you can't know what the prices are, the price index of certain commodities. As long as there's a bumper harvest, sometimes our supplies are so much and they get to waste just because they couldn't get out of the Rift Valley region and reach somewhere else where the commodity hasn't been abundant. So what they asked is, platforms like what you're offering, can they be registering such or engaging in these markets to register the prices of major commodities and then make it accessible for anyone, whether in Kenya doing exports or the other markets, to know what we have, where it is, and at what costs. Yeah, and then basically also register commodities which are abundant in what regions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before you respond, let's take that particular question.
Mine is to you, Anne, about leadership. In the morning you commented about Queen Bee. Yeah? You're the one who brought up that term, right? So I wanted to ask you, do you feel like women especially who've been in leadership like you for so long, are they doing their role in producing more leaders? Or rather, there's this saying that we were debating in the morning about women. Sometimes what makes us not go forward, the quote that goes, we are our own enemies. But for me, I normally say, sometimes maybe, as compared to men, we don't know how to separate issue from person or emotions. For instance, if I don't like her and she has a brilliant idea, I can't support her because it's her, but that idea is a bigger idea that will bring so much value to the world. But because I cannot, it's still emotional intelligence, right? So my real question is, like the leaders who've been there, the ladies, are they really doing enough to produce more leaders?
Okay, so I think if I understand your question correctly, whoever told you, hey, women in entrepreneurs, they should pipe down, I think you should tell them to pipe down, he or she, for starters. Too often women get told to, they have an idea that's not good enough. My advice to you is to push back, dear, like no matter what they do. But letting that aside, we can have a separate discussion. I'm known to be a little feisty on that aspect of women not being good enough in the market. With regards to platforms, my opinion is this. So my background, actually, my first business, because I've launched a few in Kenya, specifically in the East African markets, was actually agribusiness. So what I was doing was using existing platforms like Alibaba and trying to connect the farmers in areas like Busia, for instance, and then moving their goods outside of the country. My advice to you in that type of platform, clearly you've identified the need, right? So you know that there's a gap, and there's the beauty of e-commerce is that you can superimpose that, right? So Soko Watch is now scaling, we're already in Dar es Salaam, we're already in Tanzania, we're going to Uganda, Kigali is going up in 2 weeks, right? So the beauty of e-commerce platforms is they're quickly scalable. But what you'll have to do and really understand in building your model out, irrespective of what other people think, is understanding the true need, as ladies mentioned before, and really owning, specifically in this case of the agribusiness, the supply chain. I think too often people in the e-commerce agribusiness sector want to own just a piece of the supply chain. And if you've ever worked with those brokers in that market, they're the ones kind of running the show, right? So I actually, last week alone, I was consulting for a company that's trying to step in a similar platform, and when I went through it with them, the biggest challenge they were having is they didn't understand the broker. And they laughed actually when I advised them, like, why don't you just send a fake agent in and ask the brokers for the prices so you can cut them out? And the guy laughed and said I'd been in Kenya too long because I'd become corrupt. But really, if you own the supply chain across the board and really understand from start to finish how these ladies with their product actually get out of the country, I think you can really have an impact and really make a product that has value add, because they don't even understand the supply chain themselves, right? So how can you build a solution for them without starting from A all the way to Z? So my advice to you is own the whole supply chain and then pick which portion of that supply chain that you're really going to fix, if not all of it.
Thank you so much.
Let me talk about the Queen. It's called Queen Bee syndrome. Now I'll give you a second one. But let me first that every time we respond to something, we need to leave room to be wrong. Because our perspective is, we tend to answer things from a different perspective. For example, I can respond to things from an agricultural perspective, because that's my background. I can talk about development, but I'll talk about leadership specifically this time round. So, and I will leave room for me to be wrong. So let me respond as Anne, and you are left to judge whether that sits well with you. I think women are doing a lot. We are a product of many things. Our actions are a product of many things. One of the things that I've realized helps us to make decisions in the way we believe is what we call a principle center. A principle center is a set of values that govern the way we make decisions. So if I have a personality that, let's say I grew up taught to give out and to appreciate, to share, then even if I sit in very senior positions, there is already an orientation from my perspective to want to add value to others. But if I am not mature and I'm battling, my inside is not right, and I'm grappling with issues of insecurity, I cannot be able to help. It doesn't matter how much you train me here. So let me just dispel the issue that all women are the same. It is not necessarily true. It has a lot to do with our makeup and our orientation and the values that inform the way we make decisions. So that's number one. But number two, for a long time, women were never allowed to speak in public. I mean, we rarely, I will tell you this, we rarely take our opinions in each other. And it's not because we don't like it, but because for a long time the society says there is nothing that can come out of a woman, and it's substantive. So already you are oriented in a particular way. So it is going to require this schooling of you to think that Anne can help you, because already the society, where you come from and partly where I come from, we are grappling with the issues of the past. So a lot of those things, therefore, then make us not be able to effectively contribute. Having said that, I think we are getting enlightened with time. We are beginning to appreciate the place of women in the society and leadership. And even more important, we are beginning to realize that it is more blessed, this is the Bible now, to give the knowledge we have than to receive. And we are beginning to appreciate that by going up with my sister, it is not making me lesser powerful or something like that. So the awareness is also a factor. And I must say, even if we are not doing enough, we are doing something now. And I appreciate what is being done, and I think we need to be encouraged to do more so that we can overcome the Queen Bee syndrome. But it's not yet done.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to appreciate Anne and Millie.